So that slide, of course, shows a bit of the variety and the shapes, the different shapes. So the wheels Mike probably could tell you that some of the shapes that he uses are authentic in terms of be it Italian or Swedish. There's a term that's used in Italy, sardo it's called. For the layman's, I always say it looks like a little quarter barrel of beer, but the sardo means shaped in Italian. And the sardo is very popular if you're looking into a display case and you see it. It's very distinctive in terms of the shape.
There we go. The first cheese we're going to sample today is Crema Pressato. And we've been very fortunate. This actually is a recipe that goes back to when I was still working in my family cheese factory. We made all Italian cheeses for a company called Frigo. At the time, if you go back into the 60s and 70s, Frigo was a major Italian cheese producer and marketer. And we made Romano Parm, Asiago, Fontina. So that's kind of how I cut my cheese. But the Crema Pressato is commonly, it's nothing more than a Fresca Asiago. Most people in America call it Fresca Asiago, but if you go over to Italy, it's very common for that same cheese to be called a Crema Pressato. And so that's why we named it that. This past March, the first place, gold medal with that recipe. And it's a beautifully, very nice cheese in terms of its, it can do a lot of things. It can do a lot of things. It's very good on a cheese plate. It's very good working in the kitchen. It melts great. It has not a super pungent flavor, but it does have a little bit of that Romano-ish type lipase flavor in it. So generally speaking, it's just a good all-around Italian cheese, and that's why you kind of see Asiago sail and grow.
Right. So Michael, I'm going to put up how it's spelled. Okay, Crema Pressato. So think young Asiago. I also have a small piece that I'm going to hold. You can see the texture, it's spongy. What I'd like to say, it's made from whole milk, okay? But it has a delicate, creamy balance of flavor. And it's great for like melting on artisan or focaccia breads. That's one of the nice ways. When you're doing a charcuterie board or a cheese board, it's a great complement to a cheddar, a Gouda, and what's the third cheese you want to put on? It gives it three very distinct flavors. So that's the Crema Pressato, Young Asiago, Fresca Asiago, if you will. And that won first place this year at the World Championships in its category. The one thing I can never leave out when it comes to an Italian cheese, people never think that Chianti is also very good at Asiago.
I agree.
And of course, in our area, being a Door County, Belgian ale.
Okay. So the next cheese that we're going to sample here is kind of become our claim to fame. It's a Top Hat cheddar. We purchased the English truckle cheddars specifically because when I wanted to actually do some cave aging, and I created an English cheddar recipe, and I really didn't expect that it was going to be as popular as it has been. It wasn't certainly one that we thought we were going to get rave reviews over, but this particular cheese, especially because of the cave aging, it's a very traditional English cheddar. It keeps a very nice sweetness to it, even during aging, and which is a lot different than say, you know, your 40-pound block cheddars or even your aged American cheddars. You know, we have some 3-year-old cheese now that's just really phenomenal. and I tried to make the recipe more like an English Leister, and which is an English truffle cheddar. And I think we kind of nailed it. And I think the uniqueness is, again, what makes ours different is that it's being subjected for 5 months open air aging in our flora and our cake. So all that being said, it's just a really, really nice cheese.
So hold that one up. That's the Top Hat Cheddar. 2-time winner, world and U.S. champ. Has a real nice texture. So it's not real crystally because of its age. So it has a smoothness and a texture that's soft, but the flavor, he's really nailed it on this. And the flavor, when we have people who sample this for the very first time, they just go crazy over it.
Yeah.
It's by far, it has become the bell cow for us.
Yeah.
And the demand is high for it. Wonderful cheese, and I get to eat it.
The next one is our Zivile. This is kind of a unique cheese. This is, we started making this fairly early in our company existence. And it's always been one of my favorite cheeses. It is really it's a Swedish Fontina or a Danish Fontina, however you want to call it. I actually, in a previous job, had made a lot of Swedish Fontinas, and I grew very fond of them. And so this particular cheese is it's very flexible. It's the culture that I use brings on a very unique flavor of like citrus and apples, which is unique to itself. So we got a very citrusy, fresh, appley type flavor. The texture is really soft, almost to the point of like a whole milk mozzarella. But the neat thing about this is we use some Leuconostoc bacteria, so we get those nice little baby eyes like you would get in Gouda. And it adds a little bit of flavor to it, but when you cut the cheese, and you use it, especially on a cheese board or something, it really presents well, and people really like it as a fondue cheese. It has great fat retention, so you could cut this and melt it in a fondue pot, and it isn't going to oil off. It just holds together. It's really, really nice. And a lot of people are using it as an alternative to a mozzarella on their pizza, because it gives it a little different flavor.
It's spelled Zivile, so it's Zivile Swedish Fontina.
Zivile, by the way, is the name I gave it. I give all of my cheeses a unique name. Zivile, that cheese is named after a foreign exchange student that worked for me in the first year I opened up. And her name was Zivile. She was from Lithuania. And so when I made the cheese, I actually took her over in the vat area, and I told her I was naming this cheese after her, because she was such a sweetheart.
Well, and she was so versatile, so
Yeah.
I thought it was appropriate that she got to, her name is on this cheese, and you've got
Yeah.
the versatility of mac and cheese and fondue. And by the way, she could do everything here.
Yeah.
It's made it even more.
No, very, very
enticing.
flexible, but she
So the
was,
cheese was appropriately named.
oh yeah, and so people ask all the time about, is it Zivile or, and it's pronounced Zivile. And even though it's a Lithuanian name, it suits the cheese very well. And it's a really good cheese. Valmy is Mike's version of a Belgian beer wash Gouda. And so what's the difference between a Belgian Gouda and a regular Gouda? In my eyes, as a cheesemaker, the Belgian Goudas tend to be a little bit drier and a little bit lower moisture, and they'll tend to have maybe a slightly less sweetness, but Valmy comes from the name of the town in northern France. And you remember the French Revolution, the Battle of Valmy. But we actually have a town in Door County that's about 10 miles from our plant that is called Valmy. And that community is a farm community, and it at one time housed a tremendous amount of Belgian immigrants. And we have a strong Belgian immigrant society in northeastern Wisconsin. So this is my tribute to a Belgian Gouda. I like Chimay. So this is kind of a Mike's version of a Chimay. I think it's a little bit better. Very nice eye formation. And the thing that I think changes, gives us a little bit of an edge or something different is this cheese has to age in our open air cave for 2 months before we do anything with it. And then at that point, we start a beer wash process that we wash the wheels with a Belgian double chocolate milk stout beer. And it gets washed 3 times per week for 4 weeks. So we get it's not a brine, this is a wash with a cloth. So it doesn't get like saturated or soaked, when we apply the beer, which is kind of a neat thing. So what causes that, or what happens as a result of that, is the cheese will slowly develop this beer, and you get a little bit of fermented beer flavor in that. And I don't want that to be sounding like it's negative, because it's not. So you get a little beery flavor, but more importantly, we get a caramel note that comes out in this cheese, and from that chocolate stout beer, so we get a little caramel taste that comes through it. So once we complete that beer washing, it has to be in the cave another 2 months. And during that time, what happens is every week we'll start to get yeast that grows on the outside of those wheels. And we don't let that yeast grow over, and just would be like one big fuzzball if we just let it go crazy. And that yeast is from the beer, of course. And we wash that off with a saltwater bath at least once a week to keep that yeast from getting too high. And then after 5 months, then that cheese is actually ready for the first time to be able to consume. So it's very labor intensive, it's very expensive for us to make, but it is truly an original. That's really an original cheese that nobody is doing in the United States right now.
That's how it's spelled, the Valmy. Just an interesting side story when I moved up to Door County. Having grown up in Green Bay, my great-grandmother, I believe she lived to be 96, her married name was the baker. And I didn't find out until I was working for Mike. I was on a cheese tour, and a lady talked to me about the name of my maiden name of my great-grandmother. Because I know they had come from Belgium, they were Italian, if you will. And so when they came from Belgium, they actually settled into Valmy. And my great-grandmother was born in Valmy, Wisconsin. Didn't know that until 2019. And they migrated south from Valmy to Brussels, from Brussels to Dykesville, and Dykesville to Green Bay, which is where they settled. So it truly was kind of a nice personal. Every time I talk about it when I do cave tours, I always tell that story because it's pretty special, pretty personal. But the Valmy itself, when people taste it, they know that it's I call it the epitome of labor intensity, because the amount of labor and hours that go into the making of that cheese, believe me, the end result is well worth it.
So the last cheese we're going to highlight today is one of our newest cheeses, and it's called it's our Chipotle Gouda. And as you know, there's a lot of Goudas out there that have probably 25 or 30 different combinations of seasonings and spices and different things. And one of the things that we wanted to do, because we do about 4 or 5 different types of Gouda, flavored Goudas, and but this Chipotle Gouda that we make it's been very difficult for us to even keep on the shelf. So we couldn't have imagined that it was going to be that popular.
Well, we have to start at how we got it. We wanted to introduce variations of flavors. We have 5 different Gouda flavors, and during the time that we developed the flavors, the pandemic, so we closed down and we were doing the online ordering. And so we tried to find a unique way to get some feedback from our customers via survey as to what flavors and what like. So what we did is we actually packed up little packets of different flavored Goudas and shipped them along with the orders that would be placed. And when people came up to the door, because we were doing out-of-door service, curbside service, and what ended up happening is, so we put a little survey link on all this information and asked them to sample it and then give us feedback. Well, 10 to 1, the Chipotle Gouda outpaced everything else we did. So I got a kind of an initial thinking. We had made some test batches, and we put some in the market and it sold out the first day. And of course, as a sales and marketing guy, I had no idea we were out.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm concerned because we've sampled it out and people want it. So we made our initial batch, 500 pounds of the Chipotle Gouda. It was done and ready on August 24th, and by September 5th, it was sold out. Yeah. And so it's probably, from an introduction standpoint, as a new cheese, one of the largest reactions to an introduction that we've ever had. So that's the good news. The bad news is I'm out until the first week of December, because we had to make more as a result of running out. A lot of people, Chipotle is an attractive spice. A lot of people don't even know what Chipotle is. They don't know that it's a dried and smoked element. It's, a jalapeno. So, the history behind it is really interesting. We won't go into that. It goes back into the Aztec Mexican history. But the flavor, because the Gouda is so smooth and mild, it has a sweetness and savory all in one. Because the Chipotle balances with the Gouda to give it that sweet and savory all under one roof. And the flavor lingers without a lot of heat. It has a nice spice to it, but it's not hot if you're not, don't really like. I always like to say it just kind of gets this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's we had made 3 batches, and for us, one batch might have come. And it takes about 2.5 months to make a Gouda and age it in the cage before we want to sell it. And that's even pushing it through. Mm-hmm. So it gets in its wheelhouse at about 5 or 6 months. But so we just seem like we can't make enough of it. We're being pressed. So we ramped up our production a little bit. Doesn't maybe sound like a lot of volume to a lot of people, but for our little handmade operation, it's been a significant plus.
It's always exciting to meet people that are surprisingly, not a lot of people do. Your creativity and your team's creativity brought that about. It's a great way to find out.
Well, I just wanted to thank you, Michael, for giving us an opportunity to showcase some of these cheeses. We hope that the people that view this or are viewing finding it, be of some value to them. And if anybody has any questions or whatever, they can Facebook page or our website. And just wanted to thank you again.
Yeah, and I agree. Thanks so much for having us. It's a great opportunity, and nice to be able to share the entire ambiance of our facility with people so that they know if their destination Door County is coming, we know that we're here and ready to welcome them with open arms.
Thank you. Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much.
Have a great weekend.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.